all we've done is we just keep throwing money at the problem and we just keep buying more stuff, more stuff, more stuff, more stuff. Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. From crazy Godzilla builds to exploding PC builds to builds that just don't make any sense. 2021 has been full of amazing Boost My Build submissions. That's our series where we take your PC part picker list, we tear them apart, and then we put them back together to massively boost your performance. Get some popcorn as we go through the best Boost My Builds of 2021. Give the video a like if you get value out of it. He really appreciates it. And of course, subscribe and click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release new content. With that, let's jump into it. All right, we've got App Awe. You wrote a book here, so I'm just gonna summarize. This is a huge budget. Their budget is $3,500 up to $5,000. So this is gonna be one of those budget is no object. So they like to play Planet Coaster, which I know can get pretty CPU intensive. Sims 3, that's not hard to play game. They've got tons of games on disk, so they want an optical drive. Wow, it's like $19.99 all over again. They want to do mod, photo editing, music production, custom content creation, writing documents, storing music. They're just really confused about what parts to get. So they've gone kind of max everything. And let's just take a look at this build. So, wow, this is like, we're already at $4,100 and you wanted to stick to $3,000. Okay, so let's just very briefly go. We've got a 5900X with a Noctua D15S, fine. ASRock B550 Tai Chi, wow, it's just an expensive B550. DDR4 3600 CL14, yikes, that's some expensive memory there. And we've got, essentially, we've got 32 gigs of it, 4x8. That is good, so we can get the dual rank with 4x8. You've got Kingston 500 gigabyte NVMe, and then you've got two Samsung 870 SATA drives, 2 terabyte ones, large. Those are actually some of the cheapest SSD storage you can get right now if you're just looking for kind of bulk storage. You want an RTX 3080 and you have $1,800 in here. That's actually more than you need. You can get them on eBay right now for, I believe, about $1,500 all told. And then we've got this funky chicken case that I've never even seen before. So, you know, it's, I don't know, maybe you like the aesthetic of it. To me, I hate everything about this case. It looks constraining. This is like an EATX case or something. Yeah, I just gotta tell you, I know it looks all fancy and everything inside. It feels like we're building this whole build around all this massive storage and the desire to have an optical drive. Like, we can get, I don't know, you can get an external optical drive that just plugs into your USB. I feel like this build is very confused. We've got 1,000-watt power supply. Well, probably that's what we're gonna need. A zillion fans. We got fans up the wazoo. Okay, you got a monitor in here. You've got nice keyboard, a nice mouse, and then you've got some speakers. Wow. Okay, let's just, we're not gonna jump immediately into this build. We need to have a talk, okay? Let's breathe. So sometimes, oftentimes I would say, you end up with the problem of not enough budget to cover everything that you want to do, and you have to go back to the drawing board and really hone in on what is it I want out of this build. Then once you've kind of recentered yourself, then you go back and you start cutting some things until you get to where you want to be. People don't realize this, but having too much budget can also be a problem because you end up with this everything and the kitchen sink build. Rather than going back and kind of rethinking the goals of this build, all we've done is we just keep throwing money at the problem and we just keep buying more stuff, more stuff, more stuff, more stuff. Nothing's technically wrong with this build. All these components would work together. All I'm saying is that we're just kind of bleeding money everywhere, and I feel like not really getting much closer to our ultimate objectives. So I'm actually, there's so much work that needs to be done on this one. We're just gonna do some movie magic here, and I'm gonna flip over to the completed build. Okay, here we are on the completed build. Now, what did I do? I basically took us back to, we wanna do all this content creation. So we're gonna need some memory. We're gonna need a processor that can handle that. And we're gonna need enough storage, but let's not go crazy. And we're not gonna build our build around having an optical drive, an internal optical drive. We're gonna build our build around having an external optical drive. You can get them on Amazon, for crying out loud, for $22. And you just plug this thing in whenever you need to use it. You just plug it into the front panel if you want. This solves a lot of our problems by just going to something as simple as this. And if this thing breaks, you don't have to pull it out. You don't have to do anything. You just buy another one and plug that one in instead for 22 bucks. All right, so let's go through. First of all, I went ahead and put in $1,500 for the graphics card because that's the going eBay price right now for an RTX 3080. You can get EVGA for the Win 3 card for that. So that's what we're going to stick with that. But we downsized the processor. You don't need a 5900X just to do some music processing. 5800X, I think, is where we want to be. It's a good price now that they've cut the price by 50 bucks. We've gone, I know you said you're afraid of water coolers. I would typically like to go with like a 240 or 280 millimeter water cooler. But absent that, the Fuma 2 is a phenomenal budget cooler. For $59, it even competes with the high-end coolers. Because the case we're gonna go with, I went with black. It seemed like you like black. This is the case that you can actually get a lot of storage into in the future. That's the Corsair 4000D. So that's what we went with here. You do need a couple extra fans to run it. So I got you a 5-pack of Arctic P14. These are 140 millimeter fans. The reason I like these PST fans is that you can daisy chain them together. Rather than needing a controller, you can just daisy chain them all together. Now, I wouldn't daisy chain all of them together, but you could daisy chain like 3 of them together, certainly. We did keep your power supply because you're gonna need 1,000 watts, but we definitely went down on the processor. I got you the B550 Gaming Carbon Wi-Fi. This has a front panel USB Type-C. It's got the best audio ALC 1220 codec on it. It comes loaded with features. You're really gonna like it. And we went ahead and got 4x8 of DDR4 3600 CL16 memory. I bumped you up to a 1 terabyte boot drive, and then I kept one of your SATA SSDs. My thought here is that just get 2 terabytes, 3 terabytes total, right? 1 terabyte on the boot drive, 2 terabytes on the SATA drive, and see where you're at. And then if you need another one, go buy another one later and install it. But this is, I think, just a much more streamlined build that's really gonna pull everything together without having to get into all these kind of crazy parts and cable management up the wazoo. This is going to streamline everything you're looking to do. And for something like Planet Coaster, this is going to crush any of the games that you listed. Planet Coaster, even very complex parts. And we hit a $3,000 budget with this. So we came down $1,100 and accomplished pretty much all the objectives you set out with. We've got Messiah, 60 FPS. I'm going to summarize this. They're a small YouTuber. They play on their lap 50 to 60 FPS. They record at 30 FPS. Their birthday is next month. All right, happy birthday. They're planning to build a PC. They want to record, edit, and stream Valorant and also AAA titles like Battlefield 2042, 60 FPS, and at least low setting at 1080p. They were looking for a 3060, but they're just priced too much in India right now. Yeah, I know the Indian market really is rough generally. So they're planning to buy a 1650 Super right now and upgrade later when prices settle down. They have a budget of $1,600 and they also want a good 144 hertz monitor in that budget. Whew, that'll be a tall order. Let's see what we got. Okay, so you have a Ryzen 5 5600X. You have a liquid all-in-one cooler, ML2 240 millimeter one. Might be a little bit of extravagance here. Then we've got an ASUS TUF Gaming B550 Wi-Fi motherboard for about $200. We've got 16 gigs of DDR4 3200 CL16. That's probably fine for now. Then the storage, I think, is going to be a problem. So yes, we've got a 1 terabyte hard drive. Ugh. I know my recent SSD thing, everyone thinks I hate hard drives. I don't hate hard drives. I just think that they are a very specific use these days. And handling video files is, unless you're going to do deep kind of cold storage of them, is generally not one of them. You've got only 500 gigs of NVMe SSD storage. I think that can be an issue, but let's see what else you got. You're gonna get the 1650 Super for $350. You've got a very nice case, Lee & Lee LandCool, and then we've got a 650 watt power supply, which for this build is total overkill, but we wanna go up in GPU power, so it's good that we're planning for the future with that, so that's fine. Yeah, what would I change here? Well, first of all, I would recommend you downsize the CPU, but you probably can't downsize the CPU right now because the 3600 is completely gone out of stock in most places. I don't know if it has in India. I think the motherboard, if you could come down on that one, maybe you need the Wi-Fi on it. You can get a Wi-Fi dongle, remember. You could also look at a B450 motherboard, but you're gonna have to then think about, is it compatible with the 5600X? Does it have BIOS flashback? So maybe you're just stuck in for that. I would recommend going with the stock cooler for now and getting rid of this this cooler, just to give yourself another 80 bucks, maybe to throw at a graphics card that's more like a 1660 Super. It's a big jump up from a 1650 Super to a 1660 Super, remember that. So if you could do that, that might make your life a lot happier. The other thing I'd throw some money at, because I know we've got basically $220. This builds $1,380 in the US. I'm just gonna go off that. I'd downgrade the case as much as I could. And then I would definitely upgrade this, at least a terabyte of SSD space. Like, all the parts work together. That's not the issue. The issue is, how do we maximize your performance? You also asked for a monitor. I went ahead and took a look at some monitors, and I pulled a couple out. Now, this one's a little on the pricier side. It's about $260, $70. But it's a 27-inch, which when you're streaming or recording things, 27-inch is a world of difference from 24-inch. Let me tell you, just having a little bit of extra screen real estate to do other stuff, to have OBS up and things like that, if you don't have a second monitor, makes a big difference. So this is a good monitor. If you do have a second monitor, maybe you're just looking for a gaming monitor, I found this LG 144 hertz 1080p panel. It's a TN panel, pretty good panel for just about $200 US. So you could go with that. But overall, I think the summation here is get some more storage. See if you can maybe downgrade the motherboard and downgrade the case and downgrade the cooler. Hopefully a better graphics card. There you go. Your build is boosted. Alucard Sparta. So here's your current list. The build's main theme is around the AMD Radeon 6700 XT Hellhound Spectral White. 1440p gaming build, budgeted $2,500 to $3,000. You're not sure about the case, it looks like. It would have been below $2,500 if it wasn't for the GPU being near double MSRP, in addition to it being white for a premium cost. Well, let's just see. Okay, challenge accepted. Let's see about that. Okay, so what are you really at? $2,841. Woo, okay. And what do we get the graphics card for? About $900. That's about what they run for. Okay, so I'm seeing all white. You've got a 5900X. That's a big CPU for gaming. And you've got Helian Lee Galahad AIO 360 with it. Obviously, big CPU, big cooling. I like the motherboard. It's the NZXT N7. It's one of only 2 all-white boards. The other one is made by Colorful. It's a micro ATX board, though. You've got 2x16 of DDR. Yeah, sadly, this is single rank memory now. I know a lot of people don't know that. A lot of these kits are now coming single rank, even the 2x16 kits. So unfortunately, getting 32 gigs doesn't really help gaming performance right now with a lot of kits. It just has to do with the silicon shortage. What is going on with your storage situation, though? You've got a 2 terabyte SATA drive. You've got a 1 terabyte Gen 4 drive, and NVMe, and then you've got 2 terabyte NVMe drive. It's a little kind of cuckoo banana pants. Do we need this much storage? Like, what are we doing with all this? And why this varying speeds? Why do we need a white power supply? We have a case that doesn't have the power supply window in it. I know you're kicking around a couple of cases. I'm trying to think, do any of those cases show the power supply, or are they all hidden? I think they're all hidden. Or $150 for 850 watts, that's a lot of money. If you're just buying it because it comes with like white cables, you can get white cable extensions. Let me find some. You can get this for $26. This is the all white one. If you want like white and black for some highlights, maybe you want some blue highlights with your white build. We're talking like $26 for that, not double the price of the power supply. So let's take a look. I think that we can do a lot better than $2,800 here. Let's get started. Number one, I'm going to give you permission basically to cut your build down. It sounds like that's almost what you're asking for. So let's do that. I'm going to go with 5600X. No gaming performance is worth that much money. It's very tiny over the 5600X. Go 5800X if you have some reason for more cores and threads, like production workloads, but otherwise, no. Let's go with right-sizing it. CPU cooler. Now we don't need as much cooling. Definitely don't need a 360 AIO. In fact, let's go with this Snow. And it's only $85 for the id cooling zoom flow. Now it also has on the pump head here, and it's got really nice accents on the pump, just like the Lian Li does. And it's got nice ARGB on the fans. I think overall, great little performer, especially since we're only cooling a 5600X. This should be phenomenal, and it'll look great too. The memory, okay, like I said, there's unfortunately, sadly, last year you probably would have gotten a dual rank kit here, but now you're going to end up with a single rank kit. And I know from Crucial on those ballistics kits for sure. So if we're going to do that, we might as well just go 2x8. Oh, well, we could go with 3600 CL18 for only $2 more. I was going to get this Team Force kit. I think this RGB, by the way, looks really, really slick. And for $2 more, let's go with a 3600 CL18 kit. Boom. If you want, you can get 2 of those kits. It's going to be about as much as you were spending. And you will, at that point, definitely get dual rank, because you'll go 4x8. We're going to say no to the SATA drive. I don't know why. Is that an existing drive? If so, there's a price in there. I'm confused by it. We also don't need Gen 4 storage. I'd go Kingston A2000 here. This is a really nice performance drive for $90 instead of what we just had for like you know, more than double that. Besides, we don't have to worry about the color drives because the nice thing about this motherboard is it's got these plates over the tops of the M.2s. And then the power supply, right? So 850, that's a lot of power, 414. Okay, so we maybe just a little heads over 600 is what we need. We could get away with 600 in this build, but let's get you a good one. How about a Corsair RM650X? This is a good unit. And what are we at now? We're at just under $2,100. We've saved you almost, well, at least $800. So we've cut money off. We've increased your performance. All right, we got Isaac Dubik. Isaac is primarily going to use this for streaming and some gaming, maybe even a little programming and coding for games. They own the GPU and the PSU. Their budget's around $1,000, so we got to put everything else together for $1,000. But they prefer if we could cut it down to $800 for the rest of the parts. All right, I love budget challenges. Let's see what you got here. You got a 5800X. Okay, 240 all-in-one liquid cooler, one of the ones I've recommended. You got a B550 Pro VDH Wi-Fi, which is a motherboard that I'm not a big fan of. To me, it looks like it came from Radio Shack. If you're younger than me, probably don't know what that means. It's not a compliment, though. Mostly, I don't like the audio on it. I don't like the rear connectivity on it isn't fantastic. It's only got 4 faster Gen 3 ports and 2 USB Type 2, 16 gigabytes DDR4 3200CL16 with a 3060 Ti. That is absolutely appropriate. We've got a super fast NVMe expensive one that we could save some money on. I see right there. We've got a Corsair 4000D airflow case, but I don't see any additional fans, by the way. You need more fans for that case. I know everyone really likes this case. It's airflow, but it only comes with 2 fans. You gotta populate it with some fans in there. And then we're buying a Windows license. That's like 10% of our budget. Okay, this one might be a little controversial for some folks because I'm actually gonna do something that is technically gonna reduce your CPU performance, but I think give you an overall better gaming experience. What am I doing here? I've downgraded your CPU from 5800X to the 5600X, and you've saved roughly about $100. Now, right now the price in here for this is $309. That's just because it's saying it's out of stock everywhere. I wouldn't expect the 5600X to actually sell for $309. I've changed out your CPU cooler just to one that with ARGB. That's the id Cooling Zoom Flow 240X. It's the same price right now as that older Cooler Master cooler. And to me, this is a better pump. This is a better assembly. And it looks better too. It's just beautiful RGB on it. That's the id Cooling Zoom Flow. That's the black one. Again, right now, $80. Now, here's where I've actually taken some of your money and invested it into better audio and just an overall better motherboard. Look, the motherboard you had is fine. It's okay. Absolutely. Would it work? Sure. But does it have great audio on there that you're going to want when you're gaming? No. Now, if you have like an external DAC or a external receiver you're plugging into using a digital receiver instead, maybe stay with the 5800X and that cheapy motherboard. It would be just fine. But instead, I've gone with the MSI B550 Gaming Edge Wi-Fi. This is a cracking good motherboard. It does have the front panel USB Type-C header right here for your Corsair 4000D case, so you can plug in the front panel USB Type-C. And it's got a significantly improved audio section, as well as just overall better VRMs. So at some point, if you do want to put, like maybe in 4 or 5 years, you want to buy a used 5950X or something on it, I'd feel much more comfortable with you putting it on this board than the other board. The other board probably could be a pass, but again, not my favorite board. In terms of overall features though, this is the superior board. And then of course, I've switched out your storage. You had a much more expensive $140 Gen 3 SSD. You can get just about all that performance out of the Kingston A2000 for $90 instead. If you do want to spend that much on a SATA SSD, I'd look at some of the Gen 4, the cheaper Gen 4 drives are now down around $130. I would not buy a Gen 3 drive for more than $130. I would just go Gen 4. But Gen 4 is not necessarily going to help you. You really need to know why you're buying that Gen 4 drive. Otherwise, literally, you're just burning the money. Let's talk about a couple of other revisions I made. I did add 2 case fans in here. I added 2 all-black Arctic P12 PST fans. I really like these fans because you can daisy chain them. You can see this connector here on the end of it. It's got a little daisy chain on it. So you can plug the next fan into it and just tie up the loose slack. Now, you could get 3 of these. I know the Corsair 4000D does come with 2 all black fans. It comes with 1 here in the front and 1 in the rear. What I'm suggesting is you take these 2 Arctic fans and you put them in along with the Corsair fan in there. And there you go. Let's talk about the Windows license because we're at $953. We came down $20. We've moved your performance from the CPU over into the audio and some of the features on the motherboard. One area you could cut cost is the Windows license. There's no reason that you absolutely have to buy a Windows license for $109. You could see quite a bit of cost savings there as well. So overall, again, I'm sure this one's going to be controversial. Tell me down in the comments if you hate what I've done with this build. I just think I'm focused on the overall gaming experience and not just the raw horsepower in the CPU. I want you to have a better experience. So hopefully you feel like your build is boosted. All right, let's go over to Jiva. Jiva is from India. Awesome. This is their very first PC build. Hey, congratulations. They're looking for budget, high FPS, 1080p gaming. Good news is we can probably build that right now. They want to play Valorant. Valorant will run on a toaster. Good news. $1,300 to $1,400 budget. They got a GTX 1660, not even a Super TI. Ouch. For $505. I want to cry. But hey, you got the card. We're going to use it. I know the market in India is really tough right now. Their budget includes that GPU, so we're going to take that out. They're not sure about the motherboard. They don't need high-end audio because they use a digital connection. They don't necessarily like RGB. They need some help. So let's take a look at their build. They've got a Ryzen 5 5600X. Okay, I like where we're starting with this. Don't necessarily need that power for a 1660. I went with the MSI B550A Pro. That's absolutely fine. G-Skill Ripjaw. 16 gigabyte DDR4 3200CL16, absolutely all you need for that level of GPU. And I'm starting to see some problems now. Okay, problem number one is this Western Digital Blue 500 gigabyte drive. Why, Jason? It's an M.2. Yes, but it's a Sata M.2. This is a really sneaky one. This actually catches a lot of people, so completely understandable for a first timer. The second thing I see is I'm somewhat familiar with this case, and I know why you like this case because it looks super cool, but it's terrible. It is a terrible airflow case. Again, looks super cool. If Gigabyte had just done a good job with this case and actually given it some airflow, this would be a cool case. But unfortunately, this is basically a microwave oven for your PC. We don't want that. Oh my goodness, no. Viewers who view other channels know what's wrong with this. Stop the video right now. Say in the comments what's wrong with this right now. That's right, this is an exploding power supply. Now, of course, if you're a first-time builder, of course you're gonna fall for things like this. You're just not gonna know enough, right? That's why you come here. I'm glad you came to us. We're gonna stop your PC from exploding and being microwaved. So we're gonna get rid of this power supply because it's terrible. And then you went with a 1080p monitor that I'm really not familiar with, the Gigabyte G24F. And Corsair wired keyboard. I guess that's all part of our budget. You're already over budget, by the way. You're at $1,463. Before I even start doing anything, I know I've got to find $63 in this thing. So let's take a breath. Okay, how do we build you a PC that gets you 1080p gaming on a budget, doesn't explode, and doesn't microwave the components? Here we go. Okay, so I called this the non-exploding with airflow and NVMe build. I went ahead and stuck with the Ryzen 5 5600X. I know the 3600 is not really available. You could go with an Intel platform. Just know that. You could go with like an i5 11400, 10400F. That would maybe save you some money here. I don't know what those parts go for in India right now, but it's an option with a B560 motherboard. So that's one thing to consider. I decided to stick with your direction, which is go Ryzen 5600X. Nothing wrong with your motherboard, B550A Pro. I know you ended up buying it for an inflated price. That's just the market in India. I get that. Your memory's great, but the first thing we fixed is the Western Digital Blue SN550. That's the drive we're gonna go with. This is an actual NVMe drive. How do I know that? Because you see this notch right here? There's only one of them. On the SATA drives, there's a second notch at the top here. That's how you know it's a SATA drive, and it's not gonna run any faster than a regular 2.5-inch SATA with a cable. Just because it plugs in the M.2 doesn't matter. It's the protocol itself. I know this drive is widely available, particularly in India, so this is a drive you should be able to get. We went with 500 gigabytes. You know, look, consider a terabyte if it's within the budget. We just came in under your $1,400, by the way. We're at $1,374.80 for those who want to know. Graphics card's great. The case was a real problem. I actually had a hard time finding something that I thought would be available in India. So I did go through and using a conversion from rupees to US dollars, I did find on Amazon India, it's Chiptronics ZX1000 RGB. Now this is it's kind of very similar aesthetic to the case you had, kind of that blocky black really angular case, only this one actually has fans associated with it. It's got mesh, it's got side mesh as well. This is going to be a really, from what I can tell, a really good airflow case. Has really high ratings there. I'm not familiar with this brand. Again, I think it's a brand that doesn't come into the US, but for 3,299 rupees, which I believe is like $43, it's actually going to be cheaper than the case that you wanted to get, and it's going to have airflow, come with 3 included fans. If you don't like the RGB, you can just turn that off. Remember, you can just turn the RGB off. You don't have to have it on. So don't think that you have to have that on at all. Thinking about the kind of power supplies, we want to get you one that's not going to explode. And I don't know the Indian market that well, but I'm sure that you can find either a Corsair or an EVGA power supply, something like the CX650M. This is a semi-modular power supply, 650 watts. You don't need 650 watts. Frankly, you could get away with 450 watts, I think, in this build. But this one right now happens to be on sale in the US, so it just popped to the top. But that's the kind of power supply you're looking for. And of course, into that I threw an extra fan because your case needed one more fan. But overall, for $1,400 USD, here's a build that's not going to explode. It's not going to microwave your components, and you're going to get actual NVMe SSD speeds instead of SATA speeds for a cheaper price. All right, David Sutton has what I'm calling the Godzilla build. They want to build a killer gaming PC, and they want to spend $6 grand on this thing. So I was like, oh my gosh, I got to take a look at this. This is crazy. So they've already got an LG C1 48-inch OLED TV. Amazing. They want amazing 4K gaming PC. They want to do an Alder Lake i9 12900K. They've already got an EVGA 3080 Ti. They got for $1,850, and they looked into 32 gigabytes of DDR5 5200 for $300. That's actually a good price for that memory. Those memory kits are impossible to find right now. They have a lot of requirements. So they want 4 M.2 slots. They already have 2 M.2s. They hate loud computers. They want it to be quiet. They want a sound card, a dedicated sound card. They want 4K with all the bells and whistles, and they don't care about RGB very much because the build's going to be under their desk. Now, the one thing that I see they do stipulate in their PS is they don't want this to be a pain in the rear to put together. They want it to be as pain-free as possible. Well, let's take a look. Yes, i9 12900K. Now, if you want this build to be as pain-free as possible, I would not go Alder Lake. There are still a lot of early adopter issues on the Alder Lake platform. It's getting better day by day by day. But just like Ryzen 1000 had a lot of early adopter issues, the brand new E-Core and P-Core setup with Alder Lake continues to have issues with all kinds of small bugs here and there that are, if you're good at troubleshooting, this is great for you. If you find troubleshooting frustrating, like you just want to throw it out the window because you want everything just to plug and play and work, Alder Lake is not for you. So just consider that. Let's take a look. i9 12900K, yes, absolute beast of a processor, but comes with trade-offs in terms of heat and noise. Obviously, you're aware of that because you already put down that you're getting the Be Quiet Pure Loop 360. Very good all-in-one liquid cooler. And for the motherboard, you're going with the ASUS ROG Strix Z690F. Now, I like this motherboard, but I hate the price. I said that in my Z690 motherboard overview. Fantastic motherboard, but ASUS has really come out swinging for the fences on the pricing. Gouging might be a term that you would use, but if we're not concerned with the price, this is definitely a motherboard that I would consider picking up. You've got the DDR5 5200 CL38 memory kit. You've got 32 gigs of that. Great. Looks like we're going to go with a Gen 4 drive. Remember, Gen 4 doesn't necessarily benefit gaming. This is really more production workload oriented. If you have a lot of write-heavy stuff in your workload, this would be a good drive for you, but you don't need this just for gaming. The 980 without the Pro, the 980 might be a better fit. But again, if we're going best of the best, this is certainly best of the best. Yes, we've got the EVGA RTX 3080 Ti for the Win 3 card. Amazing. The case. You went with a really deluxe case. This is the Dark Base Pro 900. This is a revision 2. You like the orange one. This case can be completely reconfigured to actually have the PC on the other side. It's overall amazing, but you are going to pay the amazing price premium of $270 for it. Again, we're not so considered with price. If you're looking for price to performance, there are some better cases, I think, but if you just want the best in terms of features, that is definitely one of the best. Here's where we get into real trouble here. So you've got an 850 watt power supply. Now this unit is a good unit. However, 850 watts, I'm gonna tell you right now, is not gonna be enough. I would not consider this enough for this build. You might be able to get away with it, but this is, if we're spending all this money and it looks like you're buying this one for $163, there's actually better units that have more power that are going to be better for you for cheaper than this. Then you've got your sound card. You've got all this other stuff down here. I'm not even going to go through it. It's great stuff for just over $6,000. So again, what are the problems I see in this build if we take a step back? I think that this build is going to be a pain in the rear, not to put together necessarily, although you got some really cool parts, but more in terms of getting it up and running, its day-to-day use. So consider that. But let's take a look at what I would do to the Godzilla build here. First of all, I think if you don't like a lot of noise in your PC and you want to keep this thing really cool, and you've already gone with a super premium case like the Dark Base Pro 900 that will fit a 420 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler, then let's get a 420 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. Let's get the best of the best, which is the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 420 millimeter cooler. I mean, this is pretty much, it's this, and then there's really nothing else, right? This is the best of the best. This is gonna have the best chance of keeping the thermals and the noise down for your i9 12900K, and I would certainly invest in it. And it frankly only costs about $10 more than the cooler you were looking at that's only a 360. I say only a 360, I know that's crazy, right? I would definitely take a look at getting a 1000 watt power supply. And you can right now get a Seasonic Focus GX 1000. This is a gold certified. I know you went for the platinum. Here's the thing about those certifications, they're largely junk. You mostly want to focus on the quality of the unit, not so much on the 80 plus rating. The 80 plus rating doesn't mean a lot. I'll probably leave a link down in the video description to a Gamers Nexus deep dive on why that, it's not entirely junk, but it's very misleading. Let me say that. It's very misleading in terms of the quality of the power supply. I go through this in my best power supply video, but if you check out this unit on the PSU cultist list, this is an A tier rated unit. It doesn't get any better than this. So I would recommend this. Again, gold, who cares, gold, platinum. You want the protections. If something goes wrong and it involves a power supply, you want that power supply to protect the rest of your system. And that's what this will do. It also has very low ripple in the voltage. A lot of other things that we don't have time to get into in a Boost My Build that we'll do more in a power supply video in the future. So those are the things that I would take a look at. But I want you to consider, just for 1 second, MECHA Godzilla. And that's a Ryzen build. So MECHA Godzilla here is a more gaming focused build. I went with a Ryzen 9 5900X because I think that's all you're gonna need for the best of the best in terms of gaming performance. If you wanted to go with a 5950X for like $100 or $200 more, you certainly can. I know right now in some locations you can get the 5950X for like $620, which is a stupidly good price. I decided to stick with the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 420. Why not? Because it seems like you really like this case. I don't want to take this case away from you. It's a phenomenal case. You really like it clearly, so let's stick with that. For the motherboard though, you wanted 4 M.2s. There are a number of X570 and even B550 motherboards that actually have that many M.2s. One of them that I like, and is not like crazy priced, is the MSI X570S Carbon Max Wi-Fi. This is one without one of those silly little proprietary fans. That's the X570S chipset. It's X570, but the S stands for silent. They simply removed that stupid little fan down here on the chipset. So many of those have failed, by the way, so I'm just so sorry for those people who were early adopters of X570 are now cursing that stupid little fan that's failed. You can get 4 M.2s on this, great audio codec, it's got Wi-Fi, it's got everything that you can need. Now the one thing you're gonna need to do in this build, of course, is you're gonna need to return your DDR5 memory or sell it on eBay for $1,000, probably more like $2,000 at this point. You could probably actually help finance part of the cost of the system by reselling that. I hate to encourage that behavior, but if you're stuck with the memory, you're stuck with it. You got to get rid of it somehow. And I decided to go with a G.Skill Ripjaws 4x8 GB DDR4 3200 CL16 kit. It's about $164. You can find some other kits in there for less than $200. And I just decided to stick with the Seasonic Focus GX, same power supply. You could come down to 900 watts, but frankly, this is a good deal right now. I would stick with that. Overall, we can do this for a little bit less than your total. We did this for $5,700. Use the extra $300 to go out and buy a bunch of games for yourself. And honestly, if you want something that's gonna plug and play, much easier. You're not going to have the same level of headaches. This is something that I would consider. What did you think of our craziest 2021 Boost My Build submissions? Tell me down in the comments, what would you do differently? Remember, of course, a lot of these come from earlier in the year, so the pricing and availability will obviously be different. Check out the links in the description for more. Of course, give the video a like if you got value out of it. He really appreciates it. And of course, click subscribe and the bell icon. That way you get notified when he releases new content. I just work here. With that, I'll catch you on the next one.